Lesson 36. So Joseph tests his brothers. We left off last time where his brothers had come to Egypt. They met him. They bowed down to them. He tested them by throwing them in the prison for 3 days and then keeping which brother behind? Which brother was left back in Egypt? Jaden? Simeon sent the others back with the order that when you return, if you want to prove you're not spies, you must come back with who? Who do they have to bring back with them the next time they come? Colin? Bring your youngest brother then. Bring your youngest brother. And then if you return, I shall know you're not spies. I'll restore your brother Simeon back to you. So the brothers went home, told father, woe is me. Father did not want to send Benjamin with. We saw troubles there. Now we see what happens when they run out of food again. Chapter 43, verse 1. And the famine was sore in the land, and it came to pass when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said unto them, Go again, buy us a little food. And Judas spake unto him, saying, The man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. If thou wilt send our brother down with us, we will go down and buy the food. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man said unto us, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. And Israel said, Wherefore dealt ye so ill with me, as to tell the man whether ye had yet a brother? And they said, The man asked us straitly of our state, and of our kindred, saying, Is your father yet alive? Have ye another brother? And we told him according to the tenor of these words. Could we certainly know that he would say, Bring your brother down? And Judas said unto... Well, we'll stop there a second. So, again, father comes out, and we see the famine is bad in the land. Things are not growing well. They've run out of the grain that they've already taken back. They probably used it wisely and parceled it out here and there. Probably in their minds, they didn't want to go back to Egypt. But they parceled it out as needed, and eventually the time came when they ran out. The famine was still going in the land. Whether the story had spread also, we know that obviously Jacob and his sons know there is grain in Egypt. All of the lands must know that. But whether they had all heard the story that this famine was going to last for 7 years, maybe. I'm sure that news had spread far and wide that this was going to be a long-lasting famine. But either way, Jacob says again, all right, guys, it's time to go down. Jacob knows full well what his sons told him. His sons already told him, Father, if we have to do that, we have to bring our brother down. And so he knows that that's coming in the back of his head. He's probably been preparing and thinking about it while he's lying in bed and everything else. Okay? And Judah reminds him. Judah steps up. The fourth son steps up to him and says, Father, you know that we were told we can't come down. The master will not see our face again unless our brother is with us. So, Father, if our brother goes with us, we will go. If he doesn't, we won't. Now, this is an interesting situation because we know the Bible teaches we must obey those in authority over us. Judah was disobeying or speaking back to his father. But at the same time, we can also look at it as him reasoning. We don't know his tone of voice and what his body language was like. That makes a big difference. He could have been saying, now, Father, we could go and we will go if you give our brother. But if we can't, we won't go. Well, he should have come up maybe with a different way. But at the same time, Jacob also knows what the demands are, that Benjamin must be going. And so here we see father arguing with him, trying to maybe not stall, but say, in the end, he knows he's going to give in. Okay? Sometimes we know that too in our own personal lives. We know that if we're in an argument with your brother, sister, or sinfully mom and dad, we know that we're going to give in. We're going to lose in the end. So you know what we do as we're losing? We make sure we point out every mistake that they've ever made or every flaw about them so that, well, I might be the loser and I'm going to feel bad in the end, but I'm going to make sure you feel bad in the end too. That is sin. Okay? That's wrong. We shouldn't argue that way. We shouldn't do that, but we sinfully do. And that's what we kind of see Jacob doing here. We know he's going to relinquish. We know in the end he's going to send Benjamin. But he's going to let his sons know, what foolishness was it? Why did you even tell him that you had a younger brother at home? Were you trying to make him have to come next time? What were you thinking? Judah wisely says, Father, you know that's a foolish argument. Father, Here we are before the ruler in Egypt, and he was accusing us of being spies, and he was asking us specific questions. Do you have a father? Yes. Is he still alive? Well, yes. Do you have any younger brethren? Yes. He said, we wanted to tell the truth because we were afraid of being accused of being spies, so of course we're going to tell the truth. We weren't thinking that if we told him that we had a younger brother, he would all of a sudden say, well, if you're not spies, then bring him. We weren't thinking that. Rather, we were thinking of telling the truth. And that way, we wouldn't be able to be proven as spies because we aren't spies. So that argument is made there too. Okay? But now Judah comes up with a plan. Let's see what Judah's plan is here. Verse 8. And Judah said unto Israel his father, send the lad with me, meaning send Benjamin with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou and also our little ones. I will be surety for him. Of my hand shalt thou require him. If I bring him not unto thee, and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever. For except we had lingered, surely now we had returned the second time. And their father Israel said unto them, if it must be so now, do this. Take the best fruits in the land in your vessels, and carry down the man a present, a little balm and a little honey, spices and myrrh, and nuts and almonds. And take double money in your hand, and the money that was brought again in the mouth of your sacks, carry it again in your hand. Peradventure it was an oversight. Take also your brother, and arise, and go unto the man, and God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your brother, meaning Simeon, and Benjamin. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. So, what do we see here? We see Judah offer himself as a token, we could say, as saying, Father, if you send Benjamin, I will personally see to it that he is guarded and watched over and cared for, and that nothing befalls him. And if anything does befall him, I will be the one who bears that responsibility. Okay? I will take the blame of it to my grave, not you, Father. Okay? So we see Judah step up and say that there. And we also see in verse 10, for except we had lingered, surely now we had returned. So he's kind of saying, he's pointing out his father, we should have probably gone a long time ago, but we've been avoiding this topic for a long time, this topic of Benjamin and having to go back to Egypt. We've been avoiding it. We should have dealt with it a long time ago. But regardless of the fact, we now have to deal with it. Father relents. Jacob says, all right, if it must be so now, do this. But he wants them to try to appease the ruler when they get there. Let's do some things that could make him happy. So what do they want to send as gifts? What does Jacob suggest sending as some gifts to this ruler? That might make him happy. Maybe some things that they don't have down in Egypt. Can't grow there or have run out of. Micah, what's one? Okay, some nuts. Colin? Almonds. Amber? Honey. What else is there? There's a list of about 6 things. Micah? Myrrh. Logan? Spices. Micah? Yeah, a little balm. All these things. So a balm would be some type of ointment that could be used. Some nice smelling spices. So probably, we know this is a famine. That doesn't mean that maybe on the almond tree that brought forth maybe thousands of almonds each year doesn't bring forth 10 or 15 or 20. Might bring forth some. Hasn't died. So they can take some. So they, instead of keeping it for themselves, Jacob thinks, let's send all these things down. Let's make a little gift basket for this master so he's not angry with my sons. And oh, by the way, in regards to your money, how much do they have to bring back down with them? Double. Bring double with you. Okay? 2 amounts. First, one for the amount of money that you brought back with you, that somehow, whatever happened, it happened, it was there. But let's bring double the money down. Let's bring the amount down that you brought back, plus the other money. Okay? And then he gives them his word of blessing, that God be with them. And if he loses his children, then he loses them. That's all he can do. Okay? So they go there and they do those things. All right. Chapter 43, starting at verse 15. Let's see how this goes here then. And the men took that present, and they took double money in their hand, and Benjamin, and rose up and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. What a trip that must have been. Doesn't say anything here about their attitudes, but you know full well, maybe mom and dad, you were misbehaving and you got sent to your room. And mom and dad said, I'll be there later. Well, that whole time you're thinking about it. Well, think of Joseph back in Egypt. he was probably eagerly rubbing his hands together, not in a wicked, sinful way, but he was rubbing them together. He couldn't wait to see his brothers again. And oh, how he longed for Benjamin. Probably every day he could get up, and wherever he could see maybe some tall tower, he could look out, and he would look towards Israel, towards Canaan, and he would wonder, what do I see a contingent of people coming? And if he would, he'd probably pay high attention to them and then realize they weren't his brothers and be disappointed. But each day he was eagerly awaiting their arrival. Whereas the brothers, they dreaded that arrival. The closer they got to Egypt, the worse they felt. Okay? So what a miserable journey that must have been. But verse 16, and Joseph saw Benjamin with them. He said to the ruler of his house, bring these men home and slay and make ready, for these men should dine with me at noon. So again there, he sees his brothers come in. He wants special attention given to them. He doesn't allow them to have to wait in line, but bring them into the ruler's house. Imagine that. What if you're the brothers and you feel guilty? You feel awful. You're so worried about what's going to happen. And now you get pulled aside into the master's house. You're thinking, this is not good. No, siree, this cannot end good. But Joseph wants a food prepared for them so they can dine at noon. And the man did, so his servant, and the man did as Joseph bade, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. And the men were afraid because they were brought into Joseph's house. And they said, because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time are we brought in, that he may seek occasion against us and fall upon us, and take us for bondmen and our asses. And they came near to the steward of Joseph's house, and they communed with him at the door of the house. In other words, they're talking with him, and said, "O sir," so now that they're pulled aside, they want to right away confess any issues there might be. "O sir, we came indeed down at the first time to buy food, and it came to pass when we came to the inn, that we opened our sacks, and behold, every man's money was in the mouth of his sack, our money in full weight, and we have brought it again in our hands." They're saying, look, we found the money. Somehow, by some circumstance, the money was put on top of our sacks, and that was wrong. And so here it is, good steward. We've brought it back. We want you to know we're no thieves. "And other money have we brought down in our hands to buy food. We cannot tell who put our money in our sacks." And he said, "Peace be to you. Fear not. Your God and the God of your father hath given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money." And he brought Simeon out to them. So the master here kind of tells him, he kind of gives them a little bit of a clue. I was the one that had your money. I did that. Now, excuse me, they don't understand why. They don't see the reason why. In fact, I could even see the oldest, Reuben, going up to that steward and almost shaking him. "Are you nuts, man? You put the money back in our sacks. We have been accused of spies. We were put in prison for 3 days. Our brother Simeon was left here. And you put the money in our sacks when we were accused of being spies? Are you crazy? We could have all been put to death for thievery. What were you thinking?" We don't see that reaction here, and it doesn't. But it's as though this man is saying that to them. I did it. And you would think that their reaction would be, "Oh, what were you thinking?" But that's not the case here. Okay? Simeon's brought out to them, and they probably hug and kiss and weep on one another's shoulders and necks. In verse 24, "And the man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their asses provender." So they're cared for, and they made ready the present again against Joseph came at noon, for they heard that they should eat bread there. So now they go from just the palace right into his own personal quarters where he lives, and they're cleaned, cared for. This is not what they're expecting. What's in their minds? Are they thinking, "Oh boy, he's only setting us up for a great fall"? And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hands, all those gifts, into the house, and bowed themselves to him to the earth. Probably racing through his mind there again is his second dream, the sun, moon, and stars all bowing down to him. And he asked them of their welfare, and said, "Is your father well, the old man of whom you spake? Is he yet alive?" And they answered, "Thy servant, our father, is in good health. He is alive." And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. So again, he's reminded of that. And he lifted up his eyes, and he saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, "Is this your younger brother, of whom he spake unto me?" And he said, "God be gracious unto thee, my son." And Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn upon his brother. And he sought where to weep, and he entered into his chamber and wept there. So he couldn't stand it any longer. The gut feeling he had that was welling up inside of him had to be let loose. He found a private room in which he could go and weep. His brothers couldn't see him. And he washed his face and went out and refrained himself and said, Set on bread. And they set on for him by himself, for they themselves and for the Egyptians which did eat with him by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews. For that is an abomination to the Egyptians. So in this room where they're eating, 11 brothers eat on one side, and the Egyptians all eat with Joseph on the other side, because I think he's an Egyptian, but of course he's a Hebrew, or he behaves like an Egyptian. But anyways, they're not allowed to mix and mingle, so they have to eat separately. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men marveled one at another. And he took seat and sent messes unto them from him. But Benjamin's mess is 5 times as much as any of theirs, and they drank and were merry with him. So we see here, Joseph had them sit according to their age, and they realize that. They recognize that. How do these Egyptians know our age? Boy, they must be able to read age real well and personalities. They've ordered us according to our age here. How do they know this? And then the youngest was brought 5 portions. What is Joseph testing here? What is he trying to find out by doing that? Colin?
See if the other brothers will be mad.
Are they still mad? They're testing them. All right, and then let's see the next day here. So we don't know about going to bed and all that stuff, where they slept, but we do know the next day. So let's skip up to there, chapter 44, verse 1. And he commanded the steward of his house, saying, Fill them in sacks with food, and as much as they can carry, and put every man's money in his sacks. So again, fill up the bag full of corn and grain, and then put the money on top. And put my cup, the silver cup, in the sack's mouth of the youngest, and his corn money. And he did according to the word that Joseph had spoken. As soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away, they and their asses. And when they were gone out of the city, and not yet far off, Joseph said unto his steward, Up, follow after the men. And when thou dost overtake them, say unto them, Wherefore have ye rewarded evil for good? Is not this it in which my Lord drinketh, and whereby indeed he divineth? Ye have done evil so doing. And he overtook them, and he spake unto them these same words. And they said unto him, Wherefore saith my Lord these words? God forbid that thy servants should do according to this thing. They're thinking, no way is it possible that there's money back in our sack. Now, you would have thought that after the first time they left, right, the steward told them when they got back the second time, I put the money in your sacks. So wouldn't the first thing you do before you leave, what do you think? What would most normal people do here? The first thing before they left. What would they check, these brothers? Amber? Yeah. Well, if he put money in it last time, did he do it again? Untie. And then quickly take care of the issue. But again, God is at work here. This is God's plan. They don't do that. They take off. They're in such a hurry to get out of there, probably get back, because they've got Benjamin with them. They've got Simeon, and things are going well. Let's get out of here before we get in trouble. Okay? And that's what they're thinking. But here, this fellow catches up to him and said, Now, why did you reward evil for good to my master? He took care of you, he fed you, and here you've stolen. And the brothers say, Whoa. Wherefore saith my Lord these words? God forbid that thy servants should do anything to this thing. Behold, the money which we found in our sack's mouth we brought again unto thee out of the land of Canaan. How then should we steal out of the Lord's house silver or gold? With whomsoever of thy servants it be found, both let him die, and we also will be my Lord's bondmen. What a foolish thing to say. That's like Jephthah, when he's saying, the first thing that comes out of my house I'll offer to the Lord. And out comes his daughter. What were you thinking, Jephthah? Okay. That we often do that. I'm guilty of that here. We in haste spit out some words. Right? We also rashly say something that we shouldn't say because we just want to say something. And so rashly these brothers say, if you find any gold or silver cup, there's no way any of us would have taken the gold. Now they should know each other. They've got amongst themselves wicked men. Now they've reformed in some ways, but we see what foolishness they've done in the past. They should probably be a little cautious about saying, well, if anybody did that, he's going to die, and the rest of us will be your servants forever. But that's what they just said. If you find the cup in anybody's package, He's going to die, and the rest of us will be thy bondmen. Foolishness. Okay? But that's what they say here. Verse 10, and he said, now also let it be according to your words. So the guy says, all right, if that's what you say, he with whom it is found shall be my servant, and ye shall be blameless. Then they speedily took down every man his sack to the ground, and opened every man his sack, and he searched, and began at the eldest, and left at the youngest. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they rent their clothes, and laded every man his ass, and returned to the city. Wow. Imagine that. That steward knows exactly whose sack that silver cup is in. That cup is down in Benjamin's. So who does he start with to begin to look? Amber? The oldest. So how are the brothers feeling once they start moving along and each time the man doesn't find the cup in the top of any of the sacks? How do they begin to feel? Amber? Yeah. See, they're probably a little worried at the first one, and the second one, and the third one, and maybe the fourth one. Still a little worried at the fifth, and sixth, seventh, and eighth. But by the time they get down to the ninth and 10th, and now there's only Benjamins, they're probably rubbing their hands with glee, giving each other elbows, fist pumps. They're going, all right, there's no way Benjamin's, he's a good boy. He's not like the rest of us. There's no way Benjamin's going to have taken that cup. So they're pretty confident when they get down here, right? And then all of a sudden, it's open. And there they can all see, sitting on top of the sack is Joseph's silver cup. Now he speaks in the Bible, it says there, that he divined with. What does it mean that he used this cup to divine with? What's the idea there? Kind of a tough idea maybe you haven't been exposed to before. Colin? Not to drink with. That might be something that he did with it, but to divine with the cup. Joe? Tell the future, right? Give it a good rub, and it will give you good luck, or it will tell you the future. You'll know what decisions you must make. That was all hocus pocus on Joseph's part, but it really makes the brothers scared. So when they see that cup on the top of Benjamin's sack, they rend their clothes. They know this is it. Oh, they can't imagine the horridness of having to go back to their father and tell him exactly what had happened. Okay? So what happens? They all pack up, and they all head back to Egypt to find out what is going to happen to them. Okay? Now, maybe also since the master had told them before, immediately you would think the argument would be, well, did you put the cup in there? But that's not the case. They can probably feel the weight of the guilt from all of those years of having lied about their brother Joseph and having sold to him, and they probably think this is still their own situation that they got themselves into for selling their brother. They could not forget that God could see those sins and that this was their punishment. Okay? So, that's where we'll pick it up in our next lesson. We'll see, once they get back to Egypt, what happens. What happens between them and Joseph.